students are clamoring with joy for the skywalk, and she decides, after the urging of the superintendent, to not make it a puff piece and absolutely like really go in on this. So yeah, here's a little bit of how this interesting conversation played out. And this is kind of a testament to the amazing person. Like, she is such a vivid character, Allison Janney, like, that she portrays here in this. Jake, check this out.
One more reason, Roslyn schools put Jericho and Syosset to shame, and it'll look great and make all our lives easier. Thank you, the end, good night, and good luck. What else can I help you with?
Do you have the bids handy? Or are they not on you?
No, they're not on me. They're locked in the basement, lost in the annals of history.
Well, I have next period free.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good luck finding them.
So she hands him the key. They go in and look in the basement. She takes out like a bunch of boxes and investigates. And you just know, like, something is a little fishy. Especially like when she starts to notice like a leaky ceiling when they're spending supposedly like $8 million on this project. So yeah, now to this very interesting Las Vegas conference. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, baby. So yeah, they go over to Las Vegas. He's kind of at a bar like as the night ends, and he recognizes, oh my god, it's one of his former students. And it's just like, wait a minute, like, what are you doing here? Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a great reconciliation period. And then things turn in a slightly sexual direction when he pretty much is like, oh yeah, I kind of burned out from high school. This is the former student that he meets in this Las Vegas bar, the superintendent does, Frank. So Frank and him, they're talking after he like gets off his shift from working at the bar. And they're like, oh, so what do you do now? Like, how'd you get out of school? Like, what are you up to? And he's like, oh, I burned out and now I take dancing. And then Frank just goes, dancing? So, like, you can kind of, that's like, sets off his gaydar, because Frank is kind of like in the closet about that. He is like, yeah, this sets off his radar in a big way, or his gaydar. And they, like, that's kind of the first moment where you really know, and they have like this kind of moment together, and they go up to find a hotel and everything. So that kind of shows you that he is like gay, and it really further adds to this really kind of incredibly complex character that they have built for him, of like this kind of public persona, like this like good looking, handsome guy that like the moms are kind of have a little bit of a crush on, but he has this kind of deep down life where he is kind of running so many different scams at once, and it really is kind of incredible to watch take place. So then they kind of cut back to the office, where Pam is like working late night, all the lights are off. It's kind of a common theme. And then this is like really kind of one of the more like suspenseful parts, and you kind of get a sense of what she's doing, and like you really start to get, if you come into this movie not knowing the synopsis, that's when you kind of get the sense like, oh yeah, she's doing crimes here, because like all the lights are off, she's in there and she's highlighting some companies, and she's about to delete them when that pesky custodian comes through and is like, late night, Pam? And then she's like, oh my gosh, you scared the crap out of me. But yeah, that's pretty much what happens. But that is a very interesting part, because like that's kind of the point where you know something is fishy. And then boom, right after that, you got to her really nice house, and like a bunch of kids are playing in the pool, and she's like doing this great like Long Island style laugh, which is just so like perfect. It's like it's just really kind of the essence of the state right here. Like, take a listen to this. When it loads, of course.
Okay, first.
Wait. Buffering. I apologize. Yeah, like this is one of the things that makes this movie so great, because.
Okay, first of all, they're too small. Oh, girls, have you met my niece, Jenny Aquila?
Yeah,
She's
so like
working
it's
with
just like some of it's not as good when you're looking at it or when you're hearing it, obviously. But like that kind of stuff is really what makes this movie so great. Like the mannerisms of Allison, like the way she plays that character is just so perfect and so like to the tune of that type of person. Which like if you're from that area, like you know, and like that kind of both like socioeconomic status and stratosphere, like and type of person, like you see these type of people all around, especially if you live in that area and are part of that like, socioeconomic stratosphere. It's like, oh, it's so perfectly done, so well done, like almost like the director, like the screenwriter, whatever, almost was kind of like grew up like the next town over, which is really kind of a testament to how good it really is. And there's some really good screenplay choices here, and like whoever did the screenplay or maybe it's a direction, though I'm not that good at screenplay by Mike Makowski and directing by Corey Finley. But there's this great point because like one of the like CD plots of it is like, oh, he's trying to like Frank is trying to lose weight. And when he's at the Las Vegas teacher conference, like they shoot the whole scene from kind of like behind a tray of cookies, and he's having a conversation, and then you see him look at the cookies at the very end and consider them. But like that's such a creative vantage point to shoot from, and like right into that script, like, or maybe it was part of the direction, I don't know, but just like to shoot from behind, like shoot the whole entire scene from behind the cookies, behind the like the row of like hors d'oeuvres that you see at any kind of like conference or any kind of like special event like that, like the muffins, the cookies, the treats, the treat table pretty much is what it was. But yeah, like those are just some of the most some of the more on par, like top tier screen writing / directing choices, and that really I think stuck out to me. But then, yeah, so you kind of come into this pool scene. They're having a pool party. Howard's out there grilling. Howard is the wife of Pam, the very new wife, in fact. And she kind of does this weird thing where she's like looking over him, and she's talking to these like moms by the pool, and she's like, one of the moms is like, "Oh, Howard must be making out like a bandit over there with those Chevys." And because he's in his day job as a Chevy dealer, and then Pam just goes, "Oh, he's doing a little consulting on the side. I'm so proud of him." It was like, what does that mean, consulting? And I'm pretty sure like he ends up like consulting for the school, and is like they just funnel money right back through some kind of like BS contracting job that they do together. And like Frank and Pam are both incredibly guilty in this situation as well. But this is also kind of where you meet the fail son, the idiot, who's also trying to be a house remodeler, and is supposed to be remodeling their house. Like he's going to be remodeling Pam's house, and you see him, and he's just, I think he's actually the same guy that played in American Vandal. He played the idiot in that one too. It was the first season of American Vandal. His name was like Dylan in that. Yeah, so he was in American Vandal. I just looked that up, but whatever. Yeah, so he is kind of like the kind of guy who just like spends all this stuff and just is like getting chased by a bunch of like 10-year-olds into a pool and just goofily falling in. And he's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna remodel the house. It'll be great for him." But they're like, "Are you sure he's ready? I don't know." And then that's where kind of the foreshadowing begins, because he starts out going on that project, and oops, he spends like upwards of like $1,500 at various hardware stores from kind of across the region, and he does it all on like the student dime. Like he does it all on the school dime. He does it with the school expense account. Like you can see him swiping, being like Roslyn Public Schools, and there's a guy who like comes out in the back and is like, "Do you want me to help you load any of that stuff that you kind of got there? Because it's like it looks like you need a little bit of help." Like,
sir, could I ask how many of our stores have you visited today?
A couple.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 1
The one that Farmingdale and Islip didn't have what I was looking for.
I mean, you know, we actually offer free ship-to service for our high-value customers.
You think I'm high value?
I mean, reasonably. Yeah. So where's the stuff going?
Yeah, so he's just like, yeah, they think I'm high value, guys. Like, I'm gonna get the shipping. This is great. Then they get to this other, like, really kind of hilarious moment where, like, Ray Romano just kind of, like, hits a golf ball 5 feet, and he was like, oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
No.
Yeah, and then that's when trouble starts to brew, because, so he gets a call kind of so he's out there golfing, and his wife gets a call, and apparently it's his cousin Larry, and they describe a very disturbing situation taking place.
Cousin.
Larry, for me? What? Okay, just tell him I'll call him after 18.
He says it's about the school.
Who, Larry from the mattress firm?
No, he's over at Ace Hardware now.
So this kid, he gives my guy a home address in West Hampton, a full 50 miles outside of Roslyn, and it's a home address. Yep. So I say to myself, I say, what's a Roslyn School's contractor doing buying supplies all the way out in Selden for anyway?
No, we wouldn't. We get our materials wholesale anyway. We put out bids. Tool chest, shower heads, this home improvement. That's not school stuff.
That's right. It doesn't add up.
Who's this James McCartan, and why does he have a Roslyn expense card?
I don't know. I don't even know a McCartan. There is no McCartan at Roslyn.
Oh, hang on, honey. Wasn't Pam Cremona or Gluckin or whatever she is, wasn't her first husband a McCartan?
Come on. No way. Pam Gluckin, of all people, she's going to have a house on Dune Road?
Yup. That's exactly what happened. So that's kind of how they find out that literally they're the guy who has literally two brain cells, the fail son, it just pretty much fails her, and things really kind of do go downhill from there. Meanwhile, Rachel, she's kind of getting her story kind of shat on by this guy, and this is where I can really tell you, it is very relative to high school. Like this is where things are really feel realistic, because she goes to the senior editor of the paper with the story, and she's like, "Oh, well, I have this story," and then he's like, "This is boring. Nobody wants to read this. Like, we're not actually trying to do real journalism here, you dumb idiot." Where, like, this is just she literally says, this is just a club designed to get us all into the best colleges we could possibly get into, which is like, I mean, that's probably the point of most clubs in high schools like these, is just to make people look good, like people like forming like anti-drug clubs, get like plastered every single weekend, like, it's all kind of a facade with, like, the kids and really everyone in the town just, like, make themselves look good and make themselves, like, publicly outward-facing, incredible, upstanding humans who really care about, like, their society and everything else like that. But it's kind of a way into getting into a good college. But she kind of has to convince him, she's like, oh, I mean, I guess. But it's like, she even, like, comes in, like, erases the title of her school. Is like, the Skywalk's going to be expensive. That was her title. And then he just changes it into what it was originally supposed to be, which is like, students excited about Skywalk. Hooray. And that's kind of was just the puff piece that was meant to be, and kind of editing it. But nevertheless, she will persist. So then they have Pam pulling up to the school the next day in her Corvette with her vanity license plate Corvette. And then she comes in, and the whole administrative office is abuzz. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Like they're whispering, and then she's like, "They're like, she's right behind you." And then Pam just pulls up. She's looking very, very confused. We don't know quite what happened, and then because then it cuts to Frank, who's in a room with sixth graders. And another hilarious and completely accurate scene takes place.
What do you hope to achieve in the 6th grade? Yeah, start with you, Heather.
I want to get all A's and become a cardiothoracic surgeon like my mom.
There's always one in every school.
Great. But just for the purposes